more into
Movie Bears podcast with Brad, Jim, and Will. What have they been watching lately? They're husky, hairy, huggable homos. Movie Bears podcast.
Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by some of my favorite husky, hairy, huggable homos who love film to review a film, either current or classic. And this week, we're definitely in the current category, but maybe elements of the classic may be part of our conversation, possibly, question mark. We don't know. Yes, we do. It probably will. We're going to be reviewing the new Mortal Kombat film that just came out in theaters and on VOD streaming over the weekend relative to when we are, of course, recording. So we're going to have a fun conversation around that film. We're also going to chat a little bit about a little thing called the Oscars that happened this weekend. So anxious to get into both of those conversations. But before I do, because it'd be really fucking boring to listen to me talk for an hour and a half, let me introduce my co-hosts and some special guests that we have this week as well. Jim Puliafko is with us in the virtual studio. Hey, sweetheart, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm here like I always am, 401 now and going strong. I'm glad to be here with some fun guests to talk about a new movie and the Oscars. That ought to be fun too.
Indeed. And Will Lindis is here with us as well. Welcome, Will. How goes?
Goes great. I mean, we've got a very, very packed show. 5 of us on the air. Oscars, Mortal Kombat. I think this is going to be a real test of our might tonight, and I'm here for it.
Indeed. I see what you did there. I like it very much. As I alluded, we also have a couple of special guests with us on the Movie Bears podcast this week for episode 401. We're starting into the next set of 400 episodes of our show. Can't think of a better way than to have these two handsome gentlemen on with us. Michael from the Big Fat Gay podcast is here. Michael, how are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you guys for having us on the show. I am so excited. You guys have no idea. I have been looking forward to this episode for weeks, ever since we first talked about it. I've just been like, okay, when's the movie coming out? Okay, I got to see it on opening night. Okay, I'm gonna go. Like, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I cannot wait.
Well, we're so jazzed to have you with us, Michael, and glad to see that you're so excited. It's going to be a great convo, and the conversation wouldn't be complete without your fellow in arms, your compatriot, Don, also from the Big Fat Gay podcast.
Hello.
Don, welcome. How's it going?
Thank you. I am also super psyched to be here. I mean, any excuse to talk about movies is always fun, but Mortal Kombat? We get to talk about Mortal Kombat. I'm here. I'm so here. I'm so ready. Let's do this.
Well, I was very happy that when we were like, Michael, Don, get over here. You were like, yes, let's do it.
You have no idea how much self-control it takes me not to be shouting Mortal Kombat right now. So.
Why would you say that while I was drinking? Why?
especially expensive alcohol, which I just remembered as I said it and saw you about spit it out. That stuff costs enough.
Never do.
You lick it up from your shirt.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta save
my
that
keyboard.
Ring it out into your mouth, just like every last drop. Yeah.
This is
There
why I
you
go with
go.
the Mad Dog 2020. No one cares when you spill.
It's kind of like Boone's Farm and those $5 sunglasses from Walgreens. You break your bottle of Boone's Farm, you lose your Walgreens sunglasses. Nah, you're not out much. You're
Boone's
good.
Farm Strawberry Hill from 7-Eleven was part of my college experience.
Mine too. Don, I knew I liked you. We have that
Part
in common.
of or entirely comprising?
Don't you judge me, mister.
Well, Michael and Don, if you wouldn't mind, just for our listeners who may not be familiar with your podcast, and I'm just going to say they absolutely should be because you folks are amazing. Would you mind telling them a little bit about your show and where they can find it, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so we co-host the Big Fat Gay podcast with our good friends Trevor and Dan. It focuses on the issues that fat people come across in a society, typically American society, but across the world. And because we're all gay, we really tend to focus on the chub chaser community, anything from pop culture and media to relationships and personal issues, and anything that comes up that we can find a way to blather on about for an hour. We come out with a new episode once a week, every Wednesday. You can find us basically if you search Big Fat Gay Pod, you'll find us wherever it's convenient to find us.
We did have some amazing guests recently. I figure maybe just mention that in passing.
Oh yeah, so we had these two jackasses.
Those guys. I remember. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, those guys. No, it was really fun though because we've never had two guests on the show at once, and we had Brad and Jim on a couple weeks ago. By the way, our viewership spiked, so thank you for that.
Oh my god!
Can't imagine why, but
Everybody loves a train wreck. That's all
Did I hear everyone loves a train? Is that
Yeah.
oh right?
Well,
right.
I mean,
I'm sorry,
train
that's
wreck.
part of it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Of course, Jim meant that he and I were the train wreck. Of course, not that you folks were. But,
we all live on the same train together, so.
And now all of a sudden, it's crap. What is the name of that movie with Chris Evans? Snowpiercer. Now we're all living in Snowpiercer.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
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 Better
So
luck than him though.
I hope so, and hopefully better eating. I'm just going to say that because those bricks of black goo.
bug bars.
Not
Though I
so
admit,
much.
there are bug restaurants in LA, and I've kind of wanted to go.
Any dystopian
boy.
future that doesn't have good snacks is one where I just kill myself and I say, fuck it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
gosh.
bringing me to a bug restaurant. That's the day I go vegan. I'm just saying.
Oh,
I mean,
come on, a little garlic cricket pad thai. Come on.
Just put the garlic in the pad thai. Skip the bugs. You don't need them.
There you go.
there
There
you
you
go.
go. See, come
That's
on, Jim.
perfect.
Come on over.
Michael,
Come
you
on
and I
over.
shared what was
Yeah.
it? Bug brittle ice cream once upon a time.
Yeah, at Salt and Straw, it was crickets. They had, but so here's the thing. We got it. I think we got it once and we tried it and it was whatever. I didn't particularly like it. And then like a year later, we were like, oh, it was for Halloween. So they do like weird ice creams for Halloween. And I was like, a year later, I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And I just forgot. And I missed the part where it said had crickets in it. And then I got it. Totally disappointing. Don, you can have those. You can have those all day long.
I think
I'll
we watched
take
the
my
movie
candy
Bright
cookie.
that night while we're eating it. It was better than Bright. I mean, I'll say that much.
Well, to be fair, there's almost anything is. The bug experience is so interesting. I mean, one of my ex, he found these little box of these like barbecue and ranch flavored like mealworms, which are a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, did the whole thing like, here, I've got a snack for you. And I was just like, oh, sure. And I got partway through it and I'm like, oh, what did I just eat? What did I just eat? And it was disappointing that I guess that it wasn't grosser, it was grosser knowing what it was. But,
Right.
Yeah. My dad did that to me with Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
my.
They were good. I didn't
life for the balls. Wow.
And
Very
it's a wonder you turned out gay.
All right. Well.
Now that we've shared our movie snacks menu with you all.
Yes.
I'm just gonna go with Raisinets. Is that okay if I'm a little vanilla? It's one of the only things in my life I'm vanilla about. But standard movie candy for me. No bugs.
Yeah. No, I used to be into Butterfingers, the little Butterfinger bites, and then do you guys see this? They changed the recipe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
What?
Not the same. It's totally different now.
Oh.
They not a fan.
I was crushed when Cadbury's cream eggs did the same thing. They changed the definition of chocolate. It's
Oh God, yes.
Oh,
And they're
man.
like, no one will notice. They're like, have
We
you
all
seen
notice.
me? I'll notice.
I am 50% Cadbury cream egg.
We can tell. We can tell. Oh goodness. Well, definitely already off to a great start. Love hamming it up with you folks. This is super fun. That's the show, everybody. Have a great week. Take care. No, I'm just kidding. Let's get into our first topic, actually, and chat a little bit about the Oscars. Jim, I don't know if you want me to leave you a specific audio drop for this, but I can if you want me to.
You know what? We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
All right, cool.
I'll squeeze one in if it works. If it doesn't, we'll just leave it out.
Here we go, just in case. Here we go, our discussion of the Oscars. Okay, you got one if you need it.
Hooray for Hollywood.
Take it away, Aaron.
Hollywood.
So, little thing called the Oscars happened this weekend, and
A very little thing called the Oscars this year.
I know. The Oscars had their lowest viewership ever, under 10 million
Under
views.
10 million. Can you imagine?
That's crazy.
Like,
That's not
it would
a
be
huge
comparable
surprise.
to the Super Bowl in a lot
Yeah.
of ways, you know.
Well, Jim and myself are very used to throwing a big Oscar gala here at our house with like 40 people and, 2 or 3 TVs going on. And of course, last year with COVID, we didn't do that. And so we were hoping that, by the time this year came around, we could. We're vaccinated now, but we know like 3 vaccinated people here in town. So, not quite ready for that yet, but definitely want to talk about it. So
probably for the best, though. Could you imagine your big reunion, getting together with all your friends for the first time in a year, and then that's the Oscars that you get to watch together? Like, this
So
may be
here's
for the best.
here's the thing. So we didn't have a big Oscar bash, but by way of what's the word I'm looking for? Admitting something. We had family over that night for a family game night.
Oh, okay.
We didn't even get to watch it. So I watched highlights.
Yep, same.
I followed some tweets about it. So
Guys.
I mean, our 2 viewerships didn't mean anything, but there are other reasons why I think viewership was down, obviously, right? I mean, a lot of people didn't see a lot of movies maybe this year. It just didn't feel like a normal movie year. I mean, viewership was on the downswing anyway. For the Oscars over the last several years. So, I'm not surprised.
I agree with you. It's definitely, the trend has been towards an audience drop, but I don't think this year would be a fair year to represent what to expect from future Oscars. And the fact that, like, how many people saw any of the nominees? Like, because even with streaming, some of them were sort of difficult to find up until the very late, couple of months. Mm-hmm.
And by then, people were just tired of trying to find them.
And I usually get my tips on what movies to watch from watching trailers. That's because I would go to the movies, and when you don't get that experience, I realized at the beginning of this year, even before Oscar season, I was like, I don't know anything that came out last year. I don't know anything that's coming out in the near future. My knowledge from that usually comes from watching trailers.
Should we do a little recap of what the Oscars were this year, just like in brief for people who don't like? It was at Union Station. There were no audiences. It wasn't in a stadium. It was like a cabaret kind of setup.
Yeah, like drinks tables, similar to go ahead.
I saw that, and my first thought was, that sounds kind of cool, but I didn't watch it. So what was your impression of that for those of you who watched it? How did that work or not work without the huge audience?
Problematic than the other things they left out, such as a host, comedy, and clips of the movies and musical entertainment. If you wanted to see any of the nominated songs, you better have been watching the pre-show, because they weren't going to show it during the Oscars this year.
Yep.
What?
What was the rationale for leaving out clips? That has nothing to do with an audience or the pandemic or any. I can't think of a reason. I guess they were just trying to maybe change it up, maybe make it as different as possible.
Yeah, I'm guessing they were striving for sort of a theatrical experience. Like, you're just watching it live all the time. There's always someone talking, but talking about what? And, I know they're trending away from hosts, which I think is a mistake. Without a host, there's no real, like, through line for the piece. There's no, like, singular flavor for everything else to gel around. Mm-hmm. And this one felt like the biggest victim of it so far, in that you're just careening from one person to the other with no feeling of connection between anything. So In that respect,
Yeah.
it felt as empty as it looked, and it just.
Can we just get a show of hands who did watch it this year? And I'll just put my hand down because I didn't.
All right, there you
Wow.
go.
I watched it.
Will, you and me, man.
Yeah, and
We're
and
veterans. We have survived.
40% of this
Yeah.
podcast.
Listen. I'm just going to say this. This is the first time we got to hang out with family without masks because they were vaccinated. We were vaccinated. So it was like, it was either do it Sunday evening or like wait 3 weeks. And so we were like, family for the first time in 13 months or the Oscars. It was an easy choice to make because, we can watch highlights. But I will say part of me, even during family game night, babe, I was like, I want to pick up my phone and see what's happening on the Oscars. It was hard to wait,
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like the big change this year. I mean, obviously the location change, but a lot of what we saw on screen today came from, or this weekend came from Steven Soderbergh did the production direction for it. Filmmaker Soderbergh did all of this, and I know that. There's definitely some pretty valid opposition to kind of like what they saw and kind of the way it was presented. For me personally, this might have been one of my favorite Oscars. And I think the reason for it is there was a lot of elements on it that feel like they're there for kind of padding of time, like kind of the jokey joke elements in between, which there were way less of. We didn't have like Ellen like delivering pizzas and people being flooded in from other theaters. The actual look and feel of the whole thing felt very intimate. It felt very different. They're going back to the Dolby next year. And I think that will kind of like signal kind of like a return to normalcy for a lot of people. And I get that. And that's cool. I really liked the way it felt this year. It felt like the actual ceremony felt cinematic in a different way. And it probably helped. Different. It felt very different. And I think part of it also that really excited me was like, I think some years you get to the end of it and you're like, I really liked it, except for I wish this person hadn't won and this person hadn't won or whatever. But all of the winners, even if they weren't like my first pick, and there were a few where it wasn't my first pick that ended up winning, I was very happy with all of the people that ended up winning in their categories. And that doesn't happen every year.
I do agree with you mostly, except for the big elephant in the room, which is Chadwick Boseman. Right?
So
the Chadwick set that up. Yeah. Somebody set that up. Yeah.
Go for it, Don.
People who watched it should set that up because I heard about it later.
Well, it's just Chadwick Boseman was nominated posthumously for his role in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was one of the only movies nominated this year that I did see. And one, he knocked it out of the park. I thought he was absolutely amazing. And two, he died. Right. So I think people saw him as winning the Oscar as just being locked up. And then it was Anthony Hopkins who didn't even show up for the ceremony or even video wise. So
on top of that, it was they and I suspect because of what Don just said, I think the people who set up the show were anticipating that Chadwick Boseman was going to win and they were going to have the big. They swapped the best actor and best picture so that the show ended on best actor. And it was supposed to be this triumphant, like respectful, like Chadwick Boseman, everyone, and it just was like, whoosh, like left turn. It's Anthony Hopkins and he wasn't there. And
nobody accepted.
Somebody who was the actor's name played the Joker.
So Joaquin Phoenix was there. He presented it since he was the previous year's winner. Yeah. There was supposed to be, and there's something fell through on it technically. They knew Hopkins wasn't going to be able to make it, and they in the event that he did win, Olivia Colman was supposed to accept for him, but something kind of got dropped with that. It's disappointing because it really hurt two elements of this show, or I guess three. Normally you end on Best Picture, right? And so with not ending on Nomadland, directed by a female director, an Asian director, someone who's absolutely amazing, a great film. It sort of takes away from kind of an important win by deprioritizing that. Everyone expected Boseman to win, and so it sort of like feels, even though it's not, it feels like a slap in his face. And also Anthony Hopkins, I'll say, having watched all of the ones, he probably him and Riz Ahmed, I think, turned in like the two best overall performances of the year. And so Anthony Hopkins' win was well deserved, but because of the way that it played out, it feels like it takes something away from him, it takes something away from Boseman, it takes something away from Nomadland, and nobody gained from all of those subtractions. And that's the sucky thing. Everyone sort of lost with this. I was feeling this Oscars quite a bit. I do feel like that bungle, like right there at the end, is going to be the thing that leaves the sour taste in everyone's mouth, like mine included.
Will, you make a good point. You're not alone in that sentiment. Samir in the chat says Hopkins is well deserved in his win, and absolutely, incredible performance. Don't want to take anything away from that, but yeah, it was set up and structured so oddly that it just, especially watching back, I was just kind of like, did this really happen on TV? Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. You do you, Boo Bear. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, unfortunately, actually, I was planning, while I was working today, I was planning on having Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on my iPad off to the side while I was working, and I never got to that point. So I did see 3 of the 5 performances, and, Stephen Yeun from Minari is great. Riz Ahmed from Sound of Metal was great. Anthony Hopkins was probably the last one that I had seen, and he was fantastic in that. I mean, I think probably what put him over the top in that is that he is on screen pretty much the whole time in that movie. Like, he is that movie. Without him, you just don't have it. So based on that strength, and I didn't see, like I said, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but I think that was more of an ensemble kind of cast. If I'm thinking right, I don't know how front and center Chadwick Boseman was. Was he?
He's one of the 2 leading guys, I'd say.
Yeah. So I can't comment on like between the 2 which one was the best. But of the 3 I saw, definitely Anthony Hopkins was the best. And leading into the Oscars, there was a lot of talk about basically the only names you really heard seriously people talking about winning was Hopkins and Boseman. But I did see a lot of people say that, Hopkins probably had it wrapped up, although the sentimental favorite for other reasons, obvious reasons, was Chadwick Boseman.
I screwed up my own Oscar pool by last minute changing from Hopkins over to Boseman because I was like, you know what? Now that they're doing like they gave like in the gift bags that they gave to everyone that was at the ceremony, they had these like Chadwick Boseman NFTs, which is actually kind of tacky, but that was like part of like what they got for showing up to the Oscars was this like NFT of golden NFT of Chadwick Boseman. I thought, well, okay, all right. I feel like the momentum's going to shift over here too, but yeah, it does suck because it feels like sort of like a flex to say this, but this is possibly the strongest performance of Anthony Hopkins' career, which is an amazing thing to say, given that it's Anthony fucking Hopkins, right? But no one's going to remember that. No one's going to think about that. Forever, it's going to be, he's the guy that didn't show up to the ceremony. He's the guy that took the award from Boseman. And that sucks. That sucks that, like, just doing that one change to the ceremony hurt so many different things at the same time. I really wish they had just sort of kept with the original structure.
We're probably running long on time, but did anything else stand out to you guys from the awards or the ceremony?
A lot of diversity in the wins and nominations. I think that was probably like the overall takeaway. I didn't watch it, but I
Oscars
was doing
so
my
white
due
finally
diligence.
sunk in.
It's hard to say what's reactionary and what's authentic, but at the end of the day, it still landed at a point that I thought was a big step forward. And so that alone, I think, is a big thumbs up for this year.
I was left being a little curious as to moving Best Picture forward and not making that finale. it made it feel a little bit to me like it was an admission from the Academy that people care a little less about best, like the pictures that are being nominated are not the mainstream love or, loves going out there. But people love people. So best actor, best actress, that was still of interest to people, even though they hadn't seen the movies necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's also part and parcel of what's happened with the last year with movies, right? Like, not a lot of films have been coming out, and not to take away from any films that won, but like this really wasn't a regular year for films. So like, a lot of people may not have seen those films, but they know they love Glenn Close. Samir in the chat says he was heartbroken that she didn't win after 8 noms.
Yeah, I'm bored.
Yeah, so
whether waiting for Thomas Newman to win an Oscar, just saying.
Yeah.
So it definitely makes sense that people are maybe following more so, actor, actress, maybe more so than Best Picture in a year like the one we've had.
Yeah.
I'd strongly encourage people to take like the winners list. Don't take the winners list. I'm sorry. Take the nominations list from this year and look through some of these films. There are a substantial number of really, really good films that were nominated this year. Only a few that I didn't care for at all, and that's a pretty good year, all things considered. I think I would really encourage someone to look over some of these and find something that looks interesting that maybe you haven't tackled yet and give it a go. I mean, I can't stop saying enough great things about Chloe Zhao's Nomadland, Lee Isaac Chung, what he did with Minari. But gosh, even things like Wolfwalkers, if you have Apple TV, it was one of the best animated movies of the year, and not enough people saw it. So if you have these streaming platforms, check out some of these movies. Don't use that would be my sort of like ask of everyone like that's listening right now. Don't necessarily use the Oscars as sort of like these are the only best films and only best actors because these are the one that won. This is a list of superlatives across genre, across style. Use this as a goodie bag to help maybe give you some ideas for what to watch on your next movie night.
And
Absolutely.
To echo Francis McDormand, don't be afraid to go see them in the movie theaters when it's safe to do so.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
I
true.
really want to see these theaters survive right now. A lot of them are scared. So let's throw them some love and let's watch Nomadland on the big screen. Come on.
I'll tell you what, I'm all for it now that we're vaccinated. We're going to talk about this during Mortal Kombat, but we got to go back to the movie theater for one of the first times to see Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
So like, I would absolutely love to see all of the Best Picture nominees on the big screen if any theaters are still doing that. Babe, we could just spend a weekend. I know you've seen a few of them, but maybe we'll
none of them on the big screen. Yeah, none of them.
And it made my heart just fill absolutely like to fill this giant chest cavity of mine. To see during the Oscar pre-show, they did like this whole like, well, we're going back to the movies and come on, and it was my movie theater, like my Alamo Draft House down the street was the one that was like they showed on the outside and they went inside. So it was super exciting here in Austin. Everyone like during the pre-show was just like, "Oh my God, South Lamar is on TV right now. It's on the Oscars. We're watching our movies theater on the Oscars." That was the first movie theater I had gone back to after my vaccination. So it just grin ear to ear, just seeing that and knowing what movies like hopefully lay in wait for me soon.
I think the only film. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
No, go ahead. I was gonna move us along, so go ahead.
Oh, I think the only film we saw on the big screen that was nominated for anything might have been Onward.
It was Onward, yeah.
Because that was pretty early in the right before the. I think was it about.
It was the second to last movie that we saw, I think, in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kills me is people were like, Onward got nominated? I didn't see that because it looked like a stupid comedy in the trailers. Why is that getting nominated for an Oscar? And I'm like, Onward was so beautiful and brilliant and amazing. You should see it.
If you don't trust Pixar by now, I mean, I don't know what to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that a Commodore song? If you don't trust Pixar by now.
This is why Wolfwalkers never had a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, listen, speaking of getting back into movie theaters, I know that we had an opportunity to maybe do that, question mark. May have tipped our hat a little bit in going to see Mortal Kombat this weekend. So, Jim, Will, Michael, Don, how do we feel about getting to our movie discussion for this week?
About
Mortal
Kombat!
Get over here. All right. Awesome. Well, for those who may be new to the show, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Welcome to episode 401. You've got a lot of catching up to do. But we're going to talk about Mortal Kombat spoiler-free for probably the first 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll give you a fair warning before we take you to spoiler Pound Town. So just be aware of that. Feel free to hang around if you want to hear all of our initial thoughts on the film, spoiler-free. You don't have to, jettison from the podcast at this point. But all that said, if you like movies about fighting and violence and mythical heroes and villains, you may have already seen this movie anyway, and you don't care about spoilers. But choose your own adventure. But here we go. Our discussion of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, man. Okay. So when we first started talking about doing this, I was like, I haven't played the games. I'm familiar with the property, but I haven't played the games and I've not seen any of the movies up before doing this. And so I was like, okay, I'm so excited for this. Don and I mean, he'll tell you, we watch schlocky, fun, campy B movies with wild abandon. Well, we used to, and we will soon again. And so this was just like, absolutely take me there. And so my boyfriend and I and his roommate all sat down and watched the 95 and 97 original Mortal Kombat movies in preparation to just get into the spirit of things. And oh man, that was a good way to go into this. Can I just say, if you have any interest in seeing this current movie in theaters, set your expectations with one of those first. It will just, anything that follows those movies will blow you out of the water. I promise you that. It was a great way to watch it.
Well, sounds like you did a little homework, Michael, to set yourself up for this viewing. Excellent. And Michael, you got to see this in theaters. Is that right?
Not only did I see it in a theater, vaccinated, everybody was vaccinated, saw it in IMAX.
Oh, nice.
It was so loud and so big and so fun, and just like that's how you have to see movies like this. I mean, there's a reason why movies. Don had this experience. I don't know, what is it, 2 years ago? He had never seen Citizen Kane, and it just happened to be playing at one of the theaters in our neighborhood on 35 millimeter film. And I was like, we should go watch it. Like, this is the way it's meant to be watched. I know you had seen it once on
I'd seen it on TV.
And it was just like, I don't get what this.
Like, I don't understand.
And the point is that movies like this, movies like that, not that these are the same, but maybe they are meant to be seen on a big screen. They are meant to be experienced big and loud, and it's supposed to just blow you over and wash over you and take you away. And it's not that you can't get that experience at home. I'm not saying you can't, but if you get to go see it in a theater, it will just, like the opening sequence. Anybody else? Like, that opening sequence was just beautiful and exhilarating, and the fighting and the choreography. It was just, I was like, okay, I was sitting there like popcorn in hand, like couldn't even like remember to eat because I was just like swept away from the first minute.
Well, definitely great to be able to enjoy a spectacle like this film back in the movie theaters on a giant screen with an amazing sound system and even a crowd, even if it's socially distanced, very minimal capacity, hearing other people like clapping and cheering and yelling and maybe even booing is kind of a visceral experience going to the movies again. But Will, for anyone who maybe is I don't know how, but maybe they're not familiar with Mortal Kombat or this iteration of Mortal Kombat, can you maybe set this experience up a little bit? Tell us your initial thoughts, and what was it like for you seeing it in theaters?
Yeah, so I'll answer the last part first. I watched it at home. I don't know how it was in theaters. I watched Nobody in theaters last week, but I haven't been vaccinated.
Right.
So hopefully soon. But okay, so our setup for Mortal Kombat. The IMDb description here is MMA fighter Cole Young, an original character for this specific installment of Mortal Kombat, seeks out Earth's greatest champions in order to stand against the enemies of Outworld in a high-stakes battle for the universe, which take out the MMA fighter Cole Young part of it, and that's pretty much the plot of all of these, right? There is a tournament. If Earth loses, all of the people from this other dimension are going to come in and absolutely just destroy us with their armies, but the thing that's preventing them is this Mortal Kombat tournament that exists in between. Here you have all of your favorites, or at least probably most of your favorite characters coming back. Characters like Sonya Blade, Kano, Sub-Zero, Jax, Lord Raiden, Liu Kang, and more are all here kicking each other's asses and throwing a bunch of one-liners around. This is based off of the popular video game series, and I think that's what really sets the expectation coming into this, right? Like, I remember I was in middle school, and we would like Mortal Kombat came out, the arcade cabinet at the at our arcade hall, and it was we all had to play it. We all we would get all of our quarters, ride our bikes down. You weren't 100% sure if you should tell your parents you were playing it, because it still kind of had that taboo. This was the bloody game where people killed each other. That's morphed into a franchise that has lore, has all of this story, and I'm not deep in on the lore. I don't know most of it. I've only played some of the games, but I think those core elements are present in all the games, and that's what you get coming out of this one. There's some pretty rough dialogue in this, I will say that, and there's some even rougher delivery of some of those dialogues, especially whenever anyone has to do the the one-liners from the game, like fatality or I win. It's awful, and it makes you it makes you visibly cringe each time. But Mortal Kombat is a series that's about people kicking each other's asses and killing each other in over-the-top ways, and you get that here. This is a fun action movie where the problems with the script, of which there are many, don't really matter, because the fight sequences are well enough choreographed. The action sequences look pretty cool. Most of the bloody effects look great, and even the main character, who, again, he's an original character here, the character is kind of milquetoast and a little boring, and so are some of the things that he learns about himself along the way. But the actor, Louis Tan, is so damn charismatic that it kind of doesn't matter, because you just like seeing him on screen. So I didn't see this on the big screen. I wish I had, because I think the things that make this movie work, those over-the-top action sequences, would have popped even more just on the biggest screen possible.
Yeah, definitely understandable for sure. Well, and I don't know why I had it in my head that you saw this in theaters. Maybe I was confusing it with Nobody last week. But if you get a chance,
this weekend was our buddies came up to visit us. We were all vaccinated, so we had our first house guests in over a year. We went to the Renaissance Fair. We just and stayed as far away from people as possible with our masks on, but we got out and we actually sort of enjoyed the world again. And so all of that ended up happening. I'm Monday night, just oh shit, I still need to watch Mortal Kombat. HBO Max, here we go.
There you go. There you go.
I tried to go see it in theaters. It was sold out here.
Really?
It was sold out. They had one seat, front row, far left. I'm no.
Oh,
and
that's not going to work.
Yeah,
that's not
fatality waiting to happen.
Well, Jim,
HBO Max.
Jim, how about for you? Give us the moviegoer experience here, as well as your initial thoughts. Will saw it streaming at home. How was it for you to see this in theaters? And was this worth the price of admission?
Yeah, so I like Mike, I had never played the games and had never seen the first two movies, 95 and 97, going into this movie. And I'm okay, I knew what the property was. I knew it was, it was based on a fighting game where two opponents generally face off and try to kill each other, and it's very violent. And I'm okay, whatever, I'm going to have fun with this movie. And you know what? I went to see this movie in the movie theater. It was great to be back in the movie theater. There were enough people in there with us to make it feel like a communal experience, so that was great. The movie itself, hey, I thought it did what it needed to do. It's kind of a big, dumb action movie. that has a lot of lore. I think maybe what hurt the movie a little bit is like all those the corny things you mentioned, like the cheesy stuff like fatality and all that stuff that made you cringe had to be in the movie because it was going to piss off people if it wasn't. But I think the movie itself wanted to be something a little bit outside of that. So those two things didn't really kind of mesh together all that well. But hey, I was totally into this movie and really enjoying it up until about 3/4 of the way through, when like the final battles that are happening got a little bit too much for me. Like it was a little bit of overload for me kind of at the end. I love the buildup of the story kind of at the beginning that happens in Japan, I think, or a place that feels like Japan. I don't know. This is a kind of a mythical world, right? It's not even really, it has outworld and earth. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
Expands beyond the realm that we are familiar with.
Right. But in my mind, I think this movie is great. I think if you can and feel comfortable and you're vaccinated and can get out and see this movie in the movie theater, I think that's the way to see it. I think most people will enjoy it, whether you're a fan of the movie, of the franchise already or not. Like I said, I think this movie does exactly what it sets out to do, and I think it's well constructed and it looks great on the screen. Like Will said, I think the effects are fine. And the sound editing I thought was really good because there's a lot to that in this movie with all the, swords and knives and stuff that's flying around. So yeah, it was pretty wild. And probably as we get into this conversation, I'm going to sound like the stupid one because like, I don't know a lot of the lore. All I know is what I saw on the screen. Something about tournaments, and we'll get into that in spoilers.
Have you never seen the ones from the 90s?
Never. No.
We watched the trailers though.
After the movie, I think, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
We watched the trailers after we saw this one. And when I saw the one, the 97 trailer, I'm like, oh my God, that one. That one.
Oh, yeah. That's
goodness. Well,
it's an experience.
Michael, you had kind of mentioned when we started the section that you had went back and watched the original films before seeing this one. Would love to hear, obviously, your thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat, but how was it in comparison to your journey through the first and second films?
I think it's actually kind of a perfect representation of when the era in which both sets of films were made, because in the 90s, when Mortal Kombat was what it was, they had the actual theme song from the game in the movie multiple times. They had all the classic lines. It was cheesy, campy, terrible effects. Like, it's exactly what you're expecting, but probably worse. But it's fun. It's dumb fun. Like, I didn't hate that I watched it. I probably won't watch them again, but it was fun. And I think in the same way, if you just update your sensibility when it comes to what you expect from a movie watching experience and plop yourself down in the current day, what do you expect when you go to watch a big, dumb blockbuster movie? What are the things that you want out of that experience? And then update the sensibility. It's exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I think that the artistry that was put into the current movie is significantly higher than the previous iterations. Like, yes, there are some. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of the nitty gritty details and issues with the script and the acting or whatever. But if you look at the movie, and I want to really focus on that opening sequence because I don't think there are any significant spoilers in there. It sets up the plot. It's gorgeous. It's really a gorgeous sequence. Everything from the production design to the acting, I thought was excellent. Maybe a little bit on the campy side, but in the same way that high drama can become campy very easily if it's not perfectly tuned. I think it worked really well. And yeah, like, it's what I would expect as a movie-going audience member if I was going to go see Transformers or a Fast and Furious movie. Except in my case, I thought this was actually better than those.
Well, that's pretty big praise, especially for films like this that are supposed to be, big dumb action movie, video game adaptations. Those are some Some good words we've heard.
Hey, Brad.
Hey.
What I want to hear what you think.
Well, hold on. I want to go to Don.
right.
First because Don started to unpack his thoughts a little bit, but Don, I think you've got some more. Was this as much of a win for you as it has been for the other guys so far, or
Yes.
do you? Okay,
It's very much what Michael said. It's the evolved version of the experience I had back in the 90s. Now, I had a very different experience watching Mortal Kombat for the first time live in theaters in the 90s. You have to keep in mind, video game movies back then were horrifically painful. I mean, Super Mario Brothers really sums it up.
Oh,
that's what you got back then. This was
Watch
the first
the
one.
riff tracks with that. Keep
Riff
going.
tracks.
Watch the riff tracks version of the Super Mario Brothers movie. Sorry, Don. Keep going.
No, and although yes, it was campy because they couldn't allow themselves not to be. They didn't trust the content. It was one of the first ones that did deliver some actually good fight sequences. The art design in that movie was so far elevated from any other video game movie of its time. And the soundtrack. You cannot talk about that movie without acknowledging the impact that soundtrack had on movies forever. Just so that wonderful experience of leaving that theater and leaning out the window screaming Mortal Kombat with my friends as we're driving home all the way. I mean, that's hard to match that experience. And the 1997 version, I'm just going to say one quick thing about that. I went to see the premiere of the 1997 version at the Sony Theater in Times Square, one of the biggest theaters in New York.
Oh,
It was filled with fanboys there at midnight to be the first people to watch that thing. When the music started playing, you saw an entire theater of fanboys screaming along with the song. And energy levels, boom. And then as soon as the movie started, you felt that energy level begin to dip. You started people feeling a little more confused. And then that horror started. You've never felt an entire movie theater go, oh no. Oh no, what have you done?
I felt that in The Phantom Menace, but please go
Yes.
Oh,
But then, and that was where it ended, right? That sad little dribble at the end with some horrific CGI of bad dragons going grrr and fighting each other. That was it. That's where we left the franchise. Movie-wise, this brought me back. This brought me back to the first one. There were a couple moments I was unable to turn off my brain to keep enjoying it. There are some exposition moments that are agonizing to sit through. I wish it was just one or two, but there are a lot. But the action, the charisma of some of the actors, and I'm a little biased because Louis Tan is my future husband. He doesn't know it yet. He still thinks he's straight, but one day.
Yeah. He'll be convinced.
Yeah, just the charm of it. Even though the writing was clunky at times, the characters came through and were fun to watch. So yes, thumbs up from me. Good experience. I have some issues with art design in it. There were some problems for me, but honestly, the heart was in the right place, and they delivered on the action, and the music was joyous and brought back music from that first movie. So,
all right. Well, that's 4 really big thumbs up, big recommends. I hate to break up this love fest, but I feel like someone's got to talk about how awful this movie was, but it won't be me. I loved this movie. I thought this was fantastic. And, Michael, you had mentioned going back and watching the original films. I did not watch them outright, but I went back and watched some clips before we saw the new movie just to bring myself back to that. And I have to say, as much as I'm a fan of 90s cheese, it was just painful to watch those clips again. So I was like, all right, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't go back and watch the whole movies. But in seeing this new movie, it's all about expectation setting. And on social media, so many people are like, oh, this movie was so terrible. All it was just people constantly fighting on screen and giving stupid lines and shitty music. And I'm like, what did you expect? It's a Mortal Kombat movie.
Have you ever played the games?
Hello, I think this movie delivered on every single possible thing. We've talked about a lot of these already, so I won't belabor them too much so that we can really get into spoilers here in a couple minutes. But I want to give a shout out to Josh Lawson, who played Kano in the film. who I think
Oh,
is
he
my
was-
perfect Kano. He was amazing. He was
He
so
was
good.
so entertaining.
He was
I
fantastic.
think he was the secret ingredient of that film, to be honest. Of,
Yeah.
of all my other elements of praise, he carries you through the first half of that movie.
You know,
Yes, he
I
does.
give this film a lot of credit because you know, Marvel does this a lot. They have their characters be very quippy and, you know, the little barbs and jokes. But I thought what they did with the Kano character and giving him those lines to you know, just kind of those cutting lines to back to Sonya or Cole or whoever. I thought they were pretty perfect in terms of like the way they were written and the comedy and how they got legitimate laughs out of the movie theater. And I hadn't heard people laugh in a movie theater in a long time. So
Oh yeah.
Hey, Brad,
Yeah.
what was your favorite part about Kano?
Well, the furry chest is always a great part of any guy for me.
We just talked about that.
But the laser eye was fun to see on screen. I don't want to go too deeply into that until we get into spoilers because it's a little bit different than I think in the game. But real quick, I want to go to Daniel Jensen. Hey, handsome, good to see you. He says, because of the previous movie, I had no expectations. However, I thought this movie was well done, and I enjoyed it. Daniel, I'm so glad to hear that because I think whether you have expectations from the previous films coming in, or maybe this is your first experience dipping into the world of Mortal Kombat, there's a lot here to potentially like. I think what I'm trying to figure out is if I really loved this movie because of the movie or because it was so nice to be back out seeing a movie on a giant screen with a crowd, with our bucket of, you know, giant popcorn and nachos with extra cheese. And so I've done some soul searching, fellas. I've spent some long, dark nights of the soul over the last few days trying to think about it. I'm pretty sure the movie's just good for me. The other things, you know, were bonus. They enhanced it. But this was a fun Mortal Kombat movie. I do think it had a lot to set up. I know the actor who plays Sub-Zero is contracted now for like 4 more movies if they decide to make more. So this movie kind of had to do a lot of the exposition and world building.
Yeah.
I have some complaints about that. We'll get to that, but it was a win for me. So.
And even if part of the reason that you liked it so much was less because of the movie and more because of the movie experience, that's also very okay because there is something that is very interwoven between movies like this and the theatrical experience that you can't really knock them for. But Michael, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to just follow up on real quick, and that's you mentioned this kind of the 95 movie versus the 2021 movie about being in very different eras, right? And I think that comes through so much in the tone of them. I think in 95, nerd culture was not where it's at now, right? When you made a video game movie, you made it at arm's length because, well, we're not really supposed to like this sort of thing. This thing is for kids. And I think that there's a lot to really enjoy about that movie from that lens. I think nowadays, nerd culture is more prestige, at least in terms of like how people look at it. I mean, you have Zack Snyder putting out a 4-hour-long black and white epic that people say is the Citizen Kane of their generation. I'm not one of those people, but I get, but that's where we are as a culture now. And I think this movie really tried to lean into some of those things. It's maybe where I saw some of the issues tonally with it, in that I think sometimes it wanted to be kind of like bombastic and weird, and sometimes it really wanted to pull back and kind of play in the stakes area of it. And I don't know that it necessarily balanced all of those things. But I do really think, to your point, Michael, this really is a good mirror reflection of just where we're at with nerd culture and video game culture and all of that as it reflects on a movie screen. I think you could do a case study. You could probably teach like a class on like shifting elements in culture over the course of 2.5 decades and the way they're reflected in these two movies.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to tell everybody in middle school and high school who laughed at me for reading comic books and playing nerdy games and all that stuff that you're now super excited about. Cool. I'm glad that you like it too, and you finally realize how awesome it is. I don't begrudge you. I carry no ill or hate for you, but maybe this is a good lesson in, like, having an open mind early on. Just saying.
He's gonna mute the mic before he says, "And fuck all you fuckers."
Yeah.
Oh,
One quick story, and I know we want to get into spoilers, but when my daughter, who's 30 now, was growing up through the 90s, she was more of kind of a little bit tomboyish, and she was definitely into the video game thing as she was growing up. And one day she's like, "Dad, I want to play this game, Mortal Kombat. My friends are playing it." I'm like, and I took a peek at what this game was, and people ripping people's spines out with blood spattering. I'm like, and she's like in 6th grade or something. I'm like, no effing way am I going to let her play that. I would not let that game in the house. She never played it. She never played it because of me. And I'm not necessarily super proud of that, I guess, but it's just kind of interesting that, like, people, here we are now watching a movie about it. And, 15, 20 years ago, I was not going to let my child anywhere near that game.
Listen, we've embraced violence and blood a lot in the last 20 years, Jim. So you're allowed.
Well, good. Yeah. Good for you all.
Did she give you any?
How's that working out for all of us?
Did she give you any shit for watching this? Like, oh,
No.
You're allowed to watch Mortal Kombat? Is that what we're doing now?
I don't know if she
goodness.
ever. I don't know if she ever picked up the game, but I don't know. Maybe she went on to other things.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to spoilers, because I think it's getting harder and harder to talk about this film without, giving important things away. So just heads up. I mentioned earlier we'd give you, a little inkling of when we're taking you to Spoiler Pound Town. Well, here's the sign. We're getting off the freeway. We're on the exit ramp. You listen at your own peril. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, however you love to access your podcasts, feel free to use the handy dandy time index that Jim has lovingly crafted for you in the show notes to jump ahead, jump behind, do whatever you want to do. It's for you. But if you're listening live, you may want to step away for the next 22 minutes and 15 seconds before we come back at the end and do a little bit more here. So just have a heads up on that. I'm done rambling. It is spoiler time. Daniel Jensen has been asking for spoilers. He says, hell yes. So here we go. Freeform spoilers. Take it away.
Spoilers.
I have a question. So in this movie, I know it's supposed to be about a tournament. Did we or did we not get a tournament in this movie?
No tournament.
Informal tournament.
The whole thing set up.
It was informal. They said, yeah, go ahead, Don. You know where I'm going. No,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
You take us there. I want to hear you.
So there was supposed to be a tournament. The bad guys try and head off the tournament by trying to kill all the good guys.
Yep.
And then the good guys say, screw it. Let's just have the tournament right now. And they teleport everyone where they want to have want to fight. So It wasn't the tournament, but was a tournament. So who knows? The sequel might still have a tournament coming up.
I think they were leaving themselves room to have a sequel that still had tension to it. Because if they say that's what happened in the original movie, in '95, they saved the day, tournament's over, and now they have to come back in 2 years and go like, wait, so how do we undo what we just sewed up again?
So they wrote themselves into a corner with this 9 out of 10 tournaments thing, right? They oh, there's only one left. We better save it for the 4th movie.
Well, the 9 out of 10s tournament has been sort of like a part of all of these, right? It's always been if humanity or Earth realm loses 10 tournaments, then we get conquered. But the tournaments, the things that's keep kind of fair play, we're not allowed to be conquered, right? So this one carried that same thing through. But you're right, they were originally planning on this to be like a trilogy, and this lets us still have a tournament in the next one because the tournament's still supposed to happen in a month in game fiction. They said it was like by the next full moon. What we had here was the bad guys tried to cheat and kill everyone before the tournament. But even there at the end, even after every single one of his fighters gets absolutely owned, Shang Tsung is like, oh, okay, well, that's okay because there's plenty more fighters to come. And there's so many other people in the deep roster of these games that and Sub-Zero is still running around. There's a lot that we can.
I play the games, and there are two characters in this one I've never seen.
Is one of them Natara? Because Natara was my favorite part of the movie. I had never seen her in the fucking games. I don't play that many of the games. She's the one with the wings. They give her this elaborate setup. Yeah, she looks cool. She's got wings. She flies in, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah." When she enters the battlefield, it's going to be awesome. And then the next scene she shows up, she immediately gets bodied by Kung Lao's like racer spinning hat. I laughed so loud at that, just like, oh my god, they just.
I mean, she the one that got one in half. She got sliced down, dissected down the middle.
Yep. Yeah.
That's something you don't see every day. Just saying.
No, you don't.
And the thing is, I love how they set that up too, because the guy, I can't remember the characters. What was his name? Kung Lao. He is set up to be this kind of like golden boy, this sort of like, he's the sort of like generic, like good guy hero who does the right thing. And then he just like splits somebody down the middle and there's like blood going everywhere. You're just like, oh, holy shit.
Question, did they bring on those two characters just to be the ones who are like killed? Because a lot of times these movies that are wanted to turn into franchise, they need to keep their characters around, right? They can't kill everybody off in the first movie.
Well,
so I'm just wondering if those characters were fodder for the main characters in the movie.
The Mylena character, the one with the size and the mouth that split open.
Yeah.
She's actually a major character from the game.
She is. So,
And so is Goro, like who the four-armed dude.
Right.
But Natara, she appeared, as someone in chat is saying, just sort of popped up in one of the later games, and so did guy with the hammer. I don't remember his name.
That was General something.
General Hammer. Well, he's General Hammer.
General Hammer. There you go.
You can't touch this. Yeah. But Jim, one thing just to kind of call out here, remember, they're not all still dead. Shang Tsung took him back. He's bringing him back to life. Yeah. I'm sure they're going to be in future films.
A necromancer who takes souls and uses them.
So. That's exactly what I said. Like when what's her name got dissected right down the middle, kind of early on in the. I'm like, well, I know how these movies goes, but I want to see how they're bringing her back to life. That's a lot of skins, a lot of stitches. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And just a point of clarification. Kevin Ryan, our roommate, good friend, confirms for us this is General Raiko. So you're absolutely right. He did have an official name beyond General Hammer. I still think of him that way. He did
nearly as little as Wing Girl. Like he showed up, he swung his hammer a few times, and then he went down. I was like, all right, fine.
He gave Jax somebody to beat down on, because he kicked Jax's ass initially, and then Jax had to get some revenge. So I was on board for that.
I have to say, I really enjoyed watching Jax with the little stick arms fighting.
Oh my gosh!
I was laughing so hard.
It was like a T-Rex reaching for a fruit on a tree. You know.
I have to say that was that whole like the Jax storyline was really funny to me, because one of the things that they really set up in here is everyone has their arcana. It's their X gene mutant power. It's their special quirk. It's their thing that lets them be like the cool special fighters. Whether it be Liu Kang's fireballs or Kano's eye lasers, Sub-Zero's all of what Sub-Zero does for the freezing powers. And I love that. And so we have the storyline set up about Cole trying to figure out what his is all throughout it. But at the same time, we also have the storyline of Jax like dealing with the fact that he lost his arms and he's now got these little tiny robot arms that he's doing with. And it was like it makes sense within the story, and it's very touching, and also it's very silly and weird. And I don't know how to resolve that his arcana is just he got bigger robot arms. Like, you can have any power in the world, bigger arms. It's like, does it work that way?
You got to kill somebody first.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I
you,
do
you-
think
you
That's
got to
true.
get that. You got to get that mark, that
Yeah.
D stamp before you can get the magic D powers.
One interesting observation I think was just a strange thing to point out. In the 97 movie, they have Jax in that too. And his entire story arc is learning that he is not the robot arms, right? Like he doesn't need those. Those are a crutch. In this one, his story arc is learning to use and embrace the robot arms.
Yes.
All right, just an interesting zigzag.
I thought there might have been a little bit of a commentary on dealing with disabilities in there, but I'm not sure how smart. I would be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. Like, I feel like there was actually a little bit of thought put into that. Also, by the way, there's a lot of thoughts here, but can we just say again, because I came from watching the '90s movies, like they unwhitewashed Raiden. Like,
Yes,
Yes.
thank
just
you.
get, like, a
Yes.
big
Thank
double
you
thumbs up
so
for that.
much. Yeah.
Raiden in the original two movies from the '90s was played by a very, very, very white two guys.
Yeah.
Because he got recast.
He was played by the Highlander and then by Dexter's dad.
Yeah.
That's right. Dexter's dad was in that. That's
Mhm.
right.
And then they cast Tadanobu Asano to play Lord Raiden in this movie, who I thought was awesome. Like, he felt like a badass to me. Maybe it was partially just how they presented the character, but he felt a lot more intimidating and powerful than either version of from the other two movies. Like,
Yeah.
I was very happy about that.
The only character that I wasn't really into from the beginning was the Sonya Blade character. I think, unfortunately, her character got saddled with a lot of the exposition, kind of up front after the Japan scene when they first meet Kano and stuff. Like, she's kind of just given the 5-minute like Mortal Kombat setting up the world speeches, and it was unfortunate that she had to do that. I think it robbed from her character a little.
That said, I really did enjoy her action sequences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Her fight against Kano in the trailer, I thought was actually just smart.
Mhm.
Like, I loved that she's well, we're in spoiler section, right? So
Yeah,
I love that she's popping out of the floor and slicing open his Achilles tendon. I love that she's stabbing him in the butt before he realizes where she is. You know, like, I thought they made her very smart, and I thought there was something interesting to the whole, like, I want to save the earth, but I'm not one of the chosen ones, so what do I do?
Mm.
Yeah.
I also feel like it didn't quite pan out. Like, I wanted a little something more to it.
Well,
but
and speaking of the whole chosen one thing, I've played some of the games, not many of the later ones. Was the whole like mark transferring thing from the games, or is that a new construct for the movie?
that's new for the movie.
Yeah. Or if
Okay.
it came from any of them, it must have come from one of the later ones because it wasn't as
Yeah.
like it's frustrating because I think that, and this is probably true of a few of the characters here, I think they did a really good job of setting up some things and maybe didn't do as good a job resolving them, like the exploration of disabilities through Jax, the idea of what it means to not be a chosen one amongst other chosen ones with Sonya. Her resolution was, okay, well, I murdered someone and now I'm a chosen one. And I almost would wonder if like it would be a better, more compelling arc for her if she still continues to be a badass just without having an arcana. Like, I guess, that takes away from, she does do the little think blasts in the game, and I get that, but if they've already set it up that way, it almost feels a little cheap to just like say like, well, you are a chosen one now. But whatever, like at the same time, this is also people doing martial arts with special magic powers for a big blockbuster movie. So I probably shouldn't get too into that.
So
Yeah,
speaking, go ahead.
I was just going to say to that point, like, I didn't have a problem with that. Like, I see where you guys are going with the whole, like, it is more interesting from a character study perspective to see how somebody like that would struggle in that position. I agree with that. But within the movie itself, not talking about any potential sequels or other storylines, within the movie itself, they establish this history between Sonya and Kano, which from watching the originals and just understanding, like, it feels like that's just in the lore anyway. And the entire movie, they are at each other's throats. And by the time that she actually does fight him, because that's how she gets her powers, is by killing him, you want to see her do that. So within the movie, I felt like it was satisfying to see her fulfill that setup. It was like Chekhov's Kano, or like Tattoo or whatever it was. Like, that was satisfying. Yeah, it's maybe not the most interesting character
Yeah.
choice, but you know, I was fine with that.
Yeah, she really had that to do, and then the setup with Cole, right? Like finding his Arcana and getting his power and
Mhm.
becoming the champion. Kevin in the chat says, I actually wonder if giving Sonya a major actor might have helped because she kind of ran out of stuff to do after Cole got his Arcana after the Kano fight. Do you think that would have helped having maybe a more big name actress?
Maybe. Or maybe even, and this also, what I'm about to suggest sucks because I love Louis Stan and nothing against him at all, but would the movie have been fundamentally different if you had taken the character of Cole Young out entirely as the entry point character and rewrote some of that, not necessarily the background stuff, but just sort of like the new person discovering the world of Mortal Kombat? If you wrote Sonya Blade as the lead in that, you know, if she became kind of the entry point for it, I think that might, some of my issues with sort of her arc as a whole might sort of resolve in that version of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
I could definitely see that.
That's good.
Yeah. Another interesting point in the chat, and I don't know if you guys have been taking a look. The chat's been going a mile a minute. We won't get to all the comments, but Michael Van Winkle says, by the way, there wasn't a tournament after the first 3 games. You should check out the latest game storyline sometime, though, if you like that stuff. So that's interesting. So there hasn't been a tournament, it sounds like, in these games in a long time because Mortal Kombat 11 was the latest one to come out. I looked this up yesterday. So, like, I don't know. Maybe our complaint about there not being an official tournament in this movie, Jim, maybe bears out in the games. There's not always a tournament.
Remember, it might sound like a complaint, but my comment was only because going into the movie, I asked people, okay, what's the world of this movie? What can I expect? And they're like, oh, well, the overworld or whatever it's called, underworld. What is it called?
Outer World.
Outer World has won 9 straight tournaments. And if they win the 10th tournament, like they take over everything. So those are the main stakes. And then we get into the movie and I'm like, they didn't have a tournament. So it was just a little weird.
But I don't know if you saw it, but the calendar invite for the tournament actually got changed, Jim. Not everybody RSVP'd.
I didn't get the Zoom notice.
So you didn't get the Zoom link. Well, actually, it was a WebEx link, but we'll get you the notes after the meeting. We'll see if someone could record the tournament for you. And there you go.
Okay.
I get what people are saying about Sonya, but I do have to say this Sonya was hands down the best Sonya we've gotten yet.
Oh, yes.
So,
okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I've been trying not to do too much, but fuck it. I'm there already. So
that has to be acknowledged.
Like the version of Sonya in either of the other 2 movies is the most. Here's what it is, and I have a whole rant about this. So just cut me off anytime. So all of the white dudes that are the Hollywood everything, and especially the writers for, I don't know, every movie up to like 15 years ago, maybe. They had this way of writing women when they realized that they had to actually write real women characters. They said, okay, well, she's gonna be a woman then. And so in the original 2 Mortal Kombat movies from the 90s, the entire movie, in the first one at least, she's going, I don't need anyone's help. I don't need a man's help. I can do this myself. And
I am a woman.
Petulant. Yeah, she's like, I am woman, hear me roar. But you can see like the male writer puppet doing that for her. And it sucks. It really sucks. And that's all she had to do in the first movie. I don't even remember what she did in the second movie. I just don't remember. And so seeing her have any semblance of a real character arc in this one, however dissatisfying,
huge step forward.
Yeah.
Right. Like we shouldn't have to praise that at this point in our world. Like that shouldn't have to be pointed out, but it is still there.
And it doesn't happen as much anymore, I don't think, to be fair to writers of today. Like you said, in the last 10, 15 years, I don't think it happens as much. But I don't think we would have gotten to this point without some of that stuff that came before. You know what I mean?
Sure.
As kind of a stepping point.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're here. And we can have characters like Sonya.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not just the improvement there too, although that is 100% the case. I think the other thing that really stands out so much is this is a cast that is predominantly Asian actors, and that's not what we had before in the films. I mean, no disrespect to people like Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, who was I believe Shang Tsung in the first one, but you know, he was surrounded by a bunch of white people doing white things, and here, I mean, you have some amazing actors coming into play. Joe Taslim, he is this Indonesian actor who he plays Sub-Zero in this, but he was also Jaka in the Raid Redemption, just one of like the kind of like the modern great like movie martial artists, and they got him to be Sub-Zero, who is sort of like the main badass of this movie. We got to see Hiroyuki Sanada play we're in
Scorpion.
we're in spoilers, so I can say Scorpion, and that's his real name.
Favorite character in the movie.
Oh,
I was so on
he was
board.
so good.
He was so good. He was
Everything
amazing.
that he was doing. Oh my god.
Especially that opening sequence. I know you had called this out before, but that opening scene, I think, is like if the entire movie was as tightly written as that first opening one, I think that my praise wouldn't be like the action scenes were cool, but the script wasn't. I think I'd be coming in here saying like this is a legit top tier movie, like, because that opening scene was so fun.
It made me want to go watch more samurai movies. Like,
so it's so funny. And Kevin in the chat can attest to this. Before we left for the movie, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, and so if you're familiar with that game at all, it's basically like an old samurai movie, but it's fucking beautiful. It's one of the most amazing games I've ever played. But anyway, so we get to Mortal Kombat and we get that opening scene, and it felt like something right out of Ghost of Tsushima, or like all these old samurai movies that we love, a Zatoichi film. And I'm right there with you, Don. Like we got the Zatoichi collection on Blu-ray like a year ago, and we've watched, I think, 3 of them, babe. But like that one scene in the movie has really made me want to go back and just like keep, powering through them, because damn, that was a good scene.
I love that scene.
Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, just a coda on the end of that is the scene. I think it is a picture of perfect storytelling, because you could watch that entire scene and understand everything that was happening and the stakes of everything without a single word being spoken or a single subtitle. Like they could have just been speaking Japanese and Chinese without my understanding, and I would know exactly what was happening, and I would be right there with it.
Yeah. And I got to say, I mean, there were a lot of surprise good acting moments in this. The woman they cast playing his wife, when she's at the door, I was watching her face through that. She went through a lot of different stuff internally, all of which I understood. I understood every moment she delivered. I was so impressed by her with no lines in that scene.
It's pretty amazing, for sure.
Definitely started the film off on the right foot. Like, did the movie, maintain that level of quality? No. But to have that first 10, 15 minutes of that, beautifulfulness and wonderful storytelling, really set the movie off on the right tone.
And I will say it also introduced Justin Tam, the lead actor.
Louis Tan.
Louis Tan, thank you. Louis Tan, I actually thought his performance, well, a lead character is often going to be a little subtle, muted, so that everyone can kind of put themselves onto it, right?
Yeah.
I saw that. He was subtle and muted, but I saw so much beneath the skin acting going on with him. I was in love with his performance. The scenes between him and his daughter and his wife were very small. Like there was no big drama going on there. But I believed every moment going on between them, and I loved watching it.
It's just too bad he got a magical shirt, because it would have been great to see him fighting shirtless throughout the movie. I'm just saying.
Especially since I will say, I don't think the magical shirt looked very good either. Like I wasn't disappointed that he got that Arcana. Yeah. I was disappointed that it just looked like it looked like clunky cosplay.
I'm going to go a step farther and say, like, I love the art design for this movie. I thought they did a great job in most places. The costume department needs to get a little bit of a reprimand. The armor all looked rubber to me. Like everything metal they were wearing looked rubber, and cheap. And his metal or shirt armor thing that happens, there's more than one point where he's leaning forward at someone and it's folding up behind him like a shirt.
Yep.
And it completely made me think it looked cheap and awful.
It does it in the front too sometimes when he like tries to stand up and puff out his chest a little, like the neck of it like folds, and it's like
It's terrible.
Yeah, no, that's not so good. But yeah. Hey, real quick before we wrap up on this movie and talk about where people can find the Big Fat Gay podcast, what final thoughts do we have on Mortal Kombat?
Final thoughts. My final thoughts.
Are we
Finish
is this
it.
round robin, or how do you want to start this off?
Just
Dive in?
tag in. Just dive in.
I'll just say it. It's this movie. I think is probably better than it has any really right to be, given what's come before it. And if you give it a chance, I think a lot of people will be surprised.
I think the big takeaway that I really got from this, and that I hope enough people get from this too, is I think this could be a good like entry point for people who do want to explore like samurai films or different martial arts films from a lot of the different Asian countries are putting out some really high quality stuff right now. I mentioned The Raid, which has Sub-Zero in this. There's a movie on Netflix now from 2018 called Shadow, which is just this beautiful sort of like Chinese war epic where everything is done in like colors of black and white. It's just one of the most beautiful movies you've ever seen, with some crazy ass fight sequences too. So I think this is a great opportunity to say, like, I really enjoyed that. I had fun with that. That was really cool. What else is there? I want to keep the train going. Check out more movies and use this as a catalyst.
I agree with all that. I think it's one of those movies where to fully enjoy, I don't suggest turning your brain on, right? You want to just sort of let it wash over you. You want to enjoy it. But it's just smart enough where if your brain's still firing off from time to time, you're going to be okay, right?
Don't let your brain.
Fun. It's fun. Let it be fun. You'll enjoy.
The last thing I want to say is, when I watch movies like Don, like I'm in the film industry, and so I have to either make a conscious choice to shut my brain off sometimes, or a movie just sweeps me away and I enjoy it for any number of reasons. It doesn't have to be a Oscar-winning film for me to enjoy it. Like, I enjoy a lot of different kinds of movies, but any movie I watch, especially in a theater, especially when it first comes out, I feel like I can always get an instinctive, almost sixth sense feeling about the people who made it. Like, what kind of effort was put into this? Did this come from a cold-hearted cash grab,
studio,
camel made by committee or horse made by committee, like bullshit studio, whatever? Obviously, this is a blockbuster movie, and it's going to have elements of that. But this is this director-producer's first movie. It's his first feature film.
I didn't realize that.
He has done a short film. And so that combined with the fact that you see that opening scene, which didn't have to be from Mortal Kombat, and it would have been phenomenal. It stood on its own. I see a lot of heart and promise in what this movie is and what it can be. And yes, it is. Don't go in expecting, high drama. You're gonna get a lot of drama. It's maybe melodrama. It's not gonna be like, it's not gonna win any Oscars, but it will be worth your money and your attention. And that's how I thought about it.
Good thoughts in summation for sure. My final thoughts, I actually want to go to something that Jim put on my radar before we went to see this movie. Jim, you don't know this, but I did a little research to figure out where this comes from. And Jim showed me this t-shirt, fellas. I'll just put it up on screen. So a user on Instagram at Hunter Harden, and we can put this in the show notes, babe, if you want to, just to give good credit. Very, very hunky hairy bear, right up my alley, is wearing, for those of you who can't see, a black t-shirt that says "Finish him," and it's a guy very obviously giving another guy a blowjob. Unfortunately, this t-shirt does not come in big guy sizes that I was able to find. But Jim, I almost feel like this needs to be an event t-shirt for you, like for the next Bigger Vegas or something.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Thanks, Mortal Kombat.
Finish him. Good job, Mortal Kombat. Thank you for all the gay subtext.
Indeed. All right, fellas. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up and let folks know where they can interact with us between now and the next time we all get together to do this. And Michael, Don, definitely hope that will be soon. Michael, if people want to reach out, find the podcast, if they want to chat with you personally, whatever you're comfortable and willing to share, how can they connect?
Absolutely. We are on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. You can find us also at our website, www.bigfatgaypod.com. We are very responsive. If you guys want to reach out, we'll get back to you immediately. You can find the podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are located. Apple is always an easy one, Spotify. We're also on Facebook, and we're super friendly. We'll write you back. I feel like people are always surprised when they reach out to me on Instagram and I actually respond and like, oh, I didn't think you would. It's like, yeah, of course I would. So we're friendly. Give us a listen. We have an episode coming out tomorrow morning if you want to check us out.
Can't wait for that. You've become part of my weekly podcast rotation, guys. It's a great show. So definitely appreciate you letting our listeners know where they can find it. Don, I know Michael already kind of gave us some show stuff, but if people want to chat with you about movies or whatever, how can they connect?
Well, I mean, I live on Facebook, and you can reach me through bigfatgaypod@gmail.com. And reach out. I'm a chatty person. It'll be fine.
And we love movies. If you want to talk movies, oh my God, we can do movies to the cows.
Yeah, you might start trying to get rid of us after a certain point. That's what we do.
We'll just send you back to the virtual green room for a timeout if we have to.
Get out of here.
Daniel Jensen, get out of here. Daniel Jensen in the chat says, I'd like to say that today's guest hosts had great synergy and I enjoyed the additional banter. So Michael, Don, there you go.
You.
That's so
You're
sweet.
a big ad.
Yay!
Well, this has been absolutely delightful. I can't believe it's already been 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I have to say, I can think of no people I would rather have next to me as we're getting ready to invade Pod Realm, I guess, than the four of you. So this was black.
Oh man, can that be a thing? We got to figure that out.
We can make it a thing.
Jim, if folks want to reach out and chat with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, anytime, guys. Right here. My name is on Twitter is at JJP Out West, all one word, at JJP Out West, or Jim Pugliafico on Facebook. It's basically Twitter and Facebook for me. So reach me there. Again, I'd love to hear from somebody. I'd love to talk to somebody. Please talk to me.
He's so lonely.
No, I'm not.
All right. Thanks, sweetheart. And Will, how about for you?
Yeah, there's three major places. You can hit me up on Twitter. My handle there is @whatevercove. I don't post a lot, and it's mostly shit posts, so you probably don't want to follow me there. Facebook, I'm way more active. I'm William Lindis there. So just send me a message first. There are a lot of bots. I'm also not the only William Lindis on Facebook, so just send me a message first so I know that you're a real boy or girl. And the last place is letterboxd.com. I log every movie that I watched, which is not a small number of movies, for the last decade now on Letterboxd, and I love connecting with people and kind of doing the whole sharing of lists and stuff there. So give me a follow there. I'd love to follow you back.
All right, excellent. And for me, it's mostly Facebook, a little Twitter, some Growler, but Facebook is the main place to connect. Just search for Brad Harris. I am the chubby bearded guy with glasses. Actually, my profile picture doesn't have my glasses in it, so we'll go with chubby and bearded. The other Brad Harris that's likely to come up is skinny and usually has a cigarette in his mouth with a Confederate flag behind him. So very easy to tell which one is me and which one is, not me. So feel free, add me, but please, like Will said, send a message just so I know you're coming from the podcast and that, you're not trying to give me an inheritance from Nigeria or something that I somehow magically won. I don't even know how that works. But
I mean, I was gonna, but now, I mean.
Well, I hate to miss out on it, Michael, but that's just how I gotta be.
I'll spend it on movie snacks.
There you go. There you go. Well, Michael and Don, once again, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If there's another film coming up at some point that you fellas or Dan and Trevor, if someone wants to come on and chat movies with us, we're always open. So just let us know.
Awesome.
Open
Thank
invite.
It was a pleasure. I had a
Thank you
great
so
time.
much for having us on the show. This is so much fun.
Our pleasure, guys. All right. Well, listeners, we will see you all out there next time we record, probably next week once we get our shit together and figure out what the hell we're doing. But thanks so much, as always, for tuning in. Episode 401. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you for 402 coming soon. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.